and welcome to this session with Vic Bassi, the head of Games Industry Africa. And we'll be talking about the African Game Dev Prototype Fund. So I would love to believe that everyone has had the opportunity to go through that website, to go through that fund, the information there before coming here, because it would be very unfair if you are asking questions that are already there. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to give the floor to Vic to introduce himself, talk about the fund, and then you get the opportunity to meet him and ask questions. So we're good to go. And yeah, so Vic, over to you.
Thank you very much, Oscar, for that wonderful intro. As I stated earlier on, thank you for putting this wonderful session together. I think that's a really, really good initiative. There has been a lot of interest in this fund, and I think just having the chance to...
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Guys, just... we'll go at this again. Mute yourself, please. Kindly mute yourself. Over to you.
Okay. So just having people here with the opportunity to ask as many questions as they can is really great. So I'll give a very quick introduction. As Oscar said, I have essentially what is a blog called Games Industry Africa that covers the games industry in Africa. I started it because I was very frustrated with international press not covering the industry in Africa. My background is having written for publications like gamesindustry.biz, Pocket Gamer, Game Informer once upon a time, MCV, another industry publication once upon a time. And every time I started in those different publications, I said, hey, it would be great to expand your viewpoint of what you write about. And each one, for varying reasons, was unable to do that until the blog started. So, but apart from writing and starting that blog, my day job, so to speak, is I work for a publisher. One of the publishers that's part of this indie house is called Raw Fury. I also used to work for another publisher way back in the day called Paradox Interactive. I have consulted for the likes of DICE. I have run a small studio out of Sweden. And I also do some consultancy work for a number of studios, as well as a VC from the States called Griffin Gaming. So yeah, that's my background. And yeah, any questions you have, please feel free to this line.
Okay. Yeah, you've heard from Vic, and I believe you're excited. He's done quite an introduction, a short introduction, a humble one by that of himself. And yeah, now you have the floor to ask questions about the African Game Dev Prototype Fund. I believe you can see it on the screen. So feel free to ask any kind of questions you want. And once more, I do say I hope you have gone through all of this. You have gone through the information on the website before coming down here. So if you want to speak, just kindly raise your hand up. That way there will be some form of structure. And sharing my screen, so if you also want me to open anything for clarifications or so, I can do that for you. So who would love to go first? Yes, come out.
Thank you for that brief introduction. I wanted first, as I told you, I wanted to get to know more about you, and I wanted to ask what kind of games you worked on as a business development manager in Raw Fury, because I've been in contact with Raw Fury before for a potential publishing deal, but unfortunately they declined my offer at the very last minute. So I was wondering what games did you like have a hand in publishing?
Thank you. That's a question we get a lot of, because when you look at Raw Fury's portfolio, it is very diverse. But to give you context as to what my role is, I will have to explain the way Raw Fury is structured. So Raw Fury is a unique setup, as in we are a publisher with multiple small publishers within it. So what does that mean and how does that work? We have what are called cells in the company, and within that there are many small publishers. So in a cell, there could be someone who acts as like the CEO, someone who oversees QA, a producer, community person, marketing person. So essentially, each cell then has multiple different games and studios they work with, and each cell decides what game they want to sign. So every game that is submitted, everyone in the company is open to choosing, looking at it, deciding if it works well, if there's potential in the game, if the studio has experience, if there is a potential to work with the studio. And that makes it exciting because there is no game that we sign that essentially everyone hasn't been involved in. So my cell essentially works with, I believe, 5 or 6 games at this moment. I work with Backbone, The Signifier, Dream Cycle. Dream Cycle is a game that's being made by Toby God, who is one of the original creators of Tomb Raider. What else is there? Kingdom, and set Backbone. Wolfstride. Yes, Wolfstride is the one I was missing. And another game that hasn't really been publicly revealed yet called Gunja. So those are essentially the games that I work with in my cell. When it comes to how we decide which titles, when you look at our cell, they're all different. So sometimes we might want a specific game that offers something different. Like we don't want a bunch of only strategy games, for example, or we might not just want platforms. We might want something that gives us a challenge. It's also important that we also have a chance to speak to the developers if they've gone to a later stage of consideration for publishing. So yeah, that's essentially how we work.
Thank you so much for that. Didn't know about the cell thing. It's quite interesting structure because actually one of the cells, when they declined my offer, because Raw Fury just had published a strategy game and I was pitching a strategy game, so that was one of the reasons. So
which strategy game was it? Paraspora?
No, it was named Cult of Valkyrie at the time.
Oh God, that must have been a while ago.
Yeah, it was like last year, right? The same time, like September last year. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that if I have seen a game, if it's from Africa, I always fight for that game. But it also has to make sense in the context of what we're working with. So if we have a game, and this applies to most publishers, you want to make sure that there is no overlap in your release cycle. So if we have a game that is due to release, say, in September, you don't want another game to be in that September. Otherwise, you can clash with your release cycles. And that also has to fit into the release schedule of the entire company as well. So part of my role in my cell is having the CEO role within my cell. But apart from that, I work with every cell at Raw Fury because essentially I oversee the strategy for all PC releases. So I work with Steam every day, GOG, Humble, Epic, and only if applicable, I work with console partners as well. Very rarely, but my day-to-day job is working with PC. So meaning I have to follow and understand how the structure works. If I was actually on my work computer, I would give you a quick overview of what my plan for the rest of the year looks like on PC. I did all of that before I went on parental leave. So yeah, it's a challenging job, but it's a lot of fun. And every game that applies, as long as it makes sense, always stands a good chance of being signed if it is commercially viable and if we believe that the studio has a long-term ambition beyond just one game.
Awesome. That's really interesting to hear. You have a very interesting job. uh, yeah, you do. And that's really interesting. Yep, so we have another hand up. That's from John. Please, John, feel free. You can unmute yourself.
Hello. Thank you for this opportunity, Oscar Michael. I just wanted to ask, because we're currently you talked about if the studio has experience, and being an early startup in Nigeria, we really lack that because this is our first project, but we've already worked on the prototype, but the game is different from the rest of the games I've seen on your website. Your website games are mostly maybe adventure, strategy, or a story mode attached to it. But what we're working on is a word game for mobile and for PC. Is that something your company can work with as well? Because I have applied for the program.
Thanks for the question, John. Is the game you're referring to COW?
What?
Is the game you're referring to with the acronym COW?
No. It's nouns.
Okay. I thought I had seen your game before. With regards to your question, we are open to anything. I think one thing you have to consider when looking at this fund is it's not about necessarily signing a publishing deal. It's about providing the funds for you to execute on an idea you have. One of the things that we understand is, not many developers or creators have always had the opportunity to test out any of the concepts they've had before they've been able to actually apply for fund for publishing. So this is essentially a way for you to validate any concept you might have. So if this game you say is a word game that is for PC and mobile, what would be the major thing that helps it stand out apart from it just being a word game? There are tons of word games. Maybe it's the way you monetize it. Maybe it's the platform. Maybe it's the age group. There are all these different things you want to consider when you are looking to validate this concept, rather than simply just making a game for the sake of it. You want to be able to know that there's a target audience, and definitely it's the right platform for it. That's one of the things that we hope you consider when you're applying to the fund.
Yes. We did consider all that because we wanted it to be okay. Sorry, I hope you don't mind me asking an additional question.
No, please, as many questions as you need, please.
All right. The games you publish or the games you work with, and I'm glad you've told me that this isn't really a publishing deal. It's basically applying for your project or your idea to get support, because Nouns is a free-to-play kind of game, but we monetize it from in-app sales and video rewarded ads. So we try to eliminate a lot of ad types in the game, which are banner, interstitial, and the rest, because we wanted to grow value. So the only ad type we use are video rewarded ads, because we found out that balances user experience and the entire thing. But it is a free to play, so you download it on the Microsoft Store or the Apple Store or the Play Store. So where we really get money from is from buying our currencies in the game for upgrades and for the rest of the stuff. So I wanted to ask, for free-to-play games, is that something that you guys will be open to?
I mean, we don't say no to anything. In truth, we have a number of mobile games. They tend to be more of the premium variety, but we're never one to say no, simply because we learn as we go along. We are not experts on mobile games, but we've released, I think, about 5 or 6 mobile games. But the beauty of this fund is, even if the game might not appeal to Raw Fury, it might appeal to one of the other partners we're working with. The Indie Houses is an initiative I actually started in November of last year. And the idea was basically born out of all the craziness going on with the pandemic. Every publisher was affected, every creator was affected. And one thing that has been a reality is developers, they speak with each other. There are so many chat forums where developers share a lot of things together, but publishers do not. You don't hear of EA working with Ubisoft. You don't hear of many different publishers collaborated, and I wanted to change that. And basically, with this, by working together, we have already begun to change that. There are some games that might not appeal to us, but the publishers, we share games that are interesting to each other. So if, for example, we see your game, we love it, we think it has a lot of potential, but for whatever reason, we can't sign it, either because we think the amount needed to help make it a success is too much, it clashes with one of our release windows, then we have this chat system where all the publishers are involved, especially those who work with scouting and rediscovering new games. We share it with each other. Annapurna, as you know, have visually stunning games. Thanks, Oscar, for bringing up their website. They have their own games. Akupara has their own games. Toge Productions, a Southeast Asian publisher, has their own games. They actually have more expertise in mobile titles. Whitethorn, they have a lot of their successes on Switch, so they might be even better, but they also have a different style of games. We share it with them. We say, hey, check this out. We can't sign them for whatever reason, either because we don't have the expertise, but you do. So is this something you want to sign? And we share the contact details. We've actually signed one studio that was sent over to us from Akupara. We're reviewing one from Whitethorn. So that is the idea of having all these different publishers together. I don't think you should look at, oh, it might not be a good fit for Raw Fury. More, is my idea viable enough to appeal to the right publisher?
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would hope for the best then, because it is a relatively new idea. It has never been like explored. It's not like taken from another game and tried to make it look better. So we hope for the best.
I love that you say that, because if it's a new idea, then you have a strong chance of really being able to pique people's interest. I would say try as best as you can to convey that during your application. There is a pitch deck sample in that application. Fill out as much as you can, because we want uniformity. We want everyone to essentially be able to have, yeah, the pitch deck is the very first thing. You had it open there, Michael. It's the very first link there. And if you need help with that, I think one of the things that Oscar had suggested was we, maybe go through a test case of filling out one of these together. Just as long as you're able to convey as much as you can. The model you see there, it says business model free. It's a freemium, essentially free to play with interstitial ads. Put that there, but you want to convey the concept first, more than anything.
All right. Thank you.
I hope it was.
That was a good question, John. And yeah, I really love the idea of bringing publishers together to share and discuss, because developers discuss. It's high time publishers as well come together so that they could also share experiences, share games. It really opens the market more for really interesting exploration. So that's something I'm really excited you're doing. It's really, really not common. So yeah, thumbs up on that. I think the next, yep, we have some hands up. Not to waste much time. Roy, please go on.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. All right. Thank you for organizing this, and thank you for having us. Okay, off the top, the first question was, I was trying to look through the sites with the fund, and I can't seem to see a deadline. Is there a deadline, or because I see the response time is 1 to 3 months? So my concern was like, is there a specific date like for someone to apply, or is it just open throughout?
No, it isn't. There is a deadline. It's a really good question. I actually received this question, I believe, from Dean earlier in the week. That oversight is on me. The deadline is going to be the end of October. I will include that page.
All right. And then I just wanted to know again. Sorry, I had a couple of questions, but Sam, you seem to be answering as you go ahead. So like normally when people apply, what are the potential pitfalls like off the bat? Like what are the obvious things that make people fail in the application?
Sorry, I missed the second part of your question. What are the obvious things that, and then I missed
the obvious pitfalls, like what are the obvious things that make people like miss out on a fund? Because like I think we've applied once or twice to sell to funds, but not to this one in particular. But we have tried a few, and sometimes we see like we have what it takes, but then when the response comes back, we're like, sorry, we can't take you up for this. So, like, what are the obvious failure points in such a fund?
Well, I think it varies from fund to fund. My expertise of prototype funding is limited, but when it comes to general funds, it depends on the type of publisher. I'll give you an example. Humble has their own fund. There are a number of African developers who've applied and received funding through them. Humble will be looking for fully fleshed out concepts that they can quickly guide through their publishing cycle with the hope of eventually releasing it both on their platform and with global appeal, essentially. So any game they pick up is one that will be marketed on the Humble store and potentially with the potential of going on multiple platforms as well. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe a ghost in the machine. Yeah, so when it comes to prototype funded, the concept is key. The target audience is key. It really is more about taking the opportunity to validate your idea. And this fund is very open-ended in terms of the amount one could apply for. We've put $5,000 to $10,000. It could be more because you take into account the size of the team, you take into account the scope of the vision they have, the platform. All of these things vary, but we've put 5 to 10 because when it comes to the nature of the development community from the African continent, most seem to be single developers with an idea and concept. This is a fund designed essentially to help you take the time, buy the hardware or software you need to flesh out your concept. And then if that concept is really intriguing enough, you get mentorship from the publishers and the fund you need to hopefully take that next step onto something potentially that could be marketable.
All right, understood. Thank you.
Do you have more questions, Roy?
No, I'm good so far. If I have another, I'll ask later.
Awesome. From the chat section, we have Ahmed saying maybe a good idea is to have this ongoing. It's always good for publishers to always have access to fresh
It's a good point, Ahmed, but if we had maybe the financial clout of Epic Games, yes, we would keep this running nonstop. Also, if we had the bandwidth, it's worth remembering that even though from the outside it seems like these publishers are big, they aren't that big. And the people who are involved in offering their time are people at the very upper end of each publisher. So it's essentially the CEOs, the decision makers. You have Nathan Gary, who is one of the co-founders of Annapurna Games. You know, it's about availability. We want the people who will be able to offer their insights, and unfortunately that comes for a limited time. But this is the first of its kind. We're hoping next year there'll be a lot more interest. The exciting thing, since we started the indie houses, is we are inundated with tons of publishers who want to join. Have a list of 20 plus, and that is exciting. But who knows? Maybe we expand it, maybe we don't, maybe we keep it small. But as long as people are able to financially back an initiative like this, then hopefully this will be the start of something a lot more long-lasting for the African game community.
I actually think this is the start of something very big, because just to feed into what Vika said, it has been very difficult from my own point. Basically, it has been very difficult to convince publishers to invest in our industry. There's a lot of things that is unknown. So having this, I think we should focus our efforts on making this work, because there are lots of people that are currently watching to see how far this would go, to see what these various initiatives would bring out. If we can make it work, then boom, our industry is really going to grow very well, because the interest is there, but then there are issues that they want to see if we can clarify for them. But with partners like Vic right now in the industry, if this is able to work, then you realize that much more people would be willing to come down, from developers, for gamers, name it. And yeah, this is not my show, so let me move on.
If I may very quickly, I probably shouldn't even be doing this, but I wanted to go back to an earlier point as to the collaborative nature of the publishers. So we have a Discord, and I'm going to show you an example of, if I can share my screen. Oh God, no.
Let me let you do that.
And the screen sharing.
No, don't worry. Don't worry, you can do that now. Allow.
Okay. So I will quickly show you an example of the chat. Yes. Oh, good God. Open systems. Oh, well. That my ambition was was noble, but maybe I can take a screen grab here, and yes, let's see. I should hopefully be able to share this. So I mentioned that there is this desire to, you know, if one of the publishers sees an idea that's really, really interesting for them, but for whatever reason, they were unable to pick it up, they can do so. They can do so. And
share?
And share it, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. You can tell my inability to multitask is glaring at this moment.
So quick one. I know. I've just heard what you've said about the limited funds, and I think I had that sort of idea. So is it like something that would then be happening once a while? Would they be like iterations, like there'll be a next cycle again? Or would it just be this is just the first and the last event for that to happen?
The hope is this will not be the first and the last. I mean, once this was made public, we had the likes of Microsoft, Epic saying, "Hey, we want to put money in the kitty. We want to be involved in this." We hope it won't be, the indie houses is not a one-off initiative. It's supposed to be a permanent, long-lasting initiative. So as long as there is funding available, we will always, at least that is my ambition, always have money set aside to fund things like this within the African game community. The good thing, at least from Raw Fury, we got acquired about a month ago. It was public, so we have a lot more extra funds than we are putting.
Very sorry about that. I think there was a... Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I want to mute.
So to answer your question, hopefully it won't be a one-off thing.
Yeah.
Sure, thanks. That's it. That's it.
Okay. So are you able to share your screen, Nick?
Unfortunately not. Technology has been really difficult for me, so I apologize for that.
Okay. Okay. Then.
This is why we should have been on Discord.
I see Kamal as his hand up. He has another question. Yep. Kamal.
I believe Roy was before me, so.
Okay. Roy's hand has been. Roy, do you still want to ask the question? I don't think you dropped your hand earlier.
Yes. I just had two more.
Okay. Two more. Interesting.
All right. Yes. All right. So I just wanted to know, like, so what's the mask? So let's say if you have like a studio has like a budget of 50,000 USD. Is it possible to get to that point, or is it just limited to the 5 to 10?
I don't think we're really looking specifically at the size of a studio. It's more the concept behind.
No. I was saying, like, if the budget was for 50,000 US dollars instead of the 5 to 10, is it possible to get it to that point, or is it just limited to the between the figure you've indicated, which is 5,000 to 10,000?
It could be more than that. You know, someone could get up to 20, someone could get up to 30. Again, it depends on the concept. There isn't a one size fits all amount for every developer, because their ideas and their needs vary. We've put 5 to 10 as a minimum, essentially. That's the minimum bracket, but it could be more.
All right. Okay, thank you. Then my second question was, okay, some of the funds I've seen that are coming up. I know it's not indicated here, but are you looking exclusively for African-related narratives, or are you just looking for whatever is out there that is put forward? That's what you pick. Okay, and as you said, you're also guided by the what do you call it, like by the pitch deck. So are you looking exclusively for African content, or is it just a variety of content that just comes up?
Well, by default, anyone who is applying for this is based out of Africa, so that is African content. Just a really good idea from African creators, North, South, East, West, Sub-Saharan, everywhere. That's what we're looking for. So as long as you have a good idea, apply. It doesn't have to be packaged in, you know, African sensibilities, because
Africa,
you know what I mean. Just a really bloody good idea. All
right. Thank you. That's clear.
Yeah. Thank you, Roy. Let's give some other people the chance. And please drop your hands so that I don't get confused again. And before we move in, I can see your hands up, please, but let's take some questions in the chat as well. We appreciate this opportunity given to us. A quick question. What's the minimum size of a team to be qualified for the fund? Fund open to indie developers.
Yeah, I saw that question. Minimum size, again, I would be amazed if there's 100 teams available. But I think part of this fund is discovering who's out there and what ideas do you want to try out. I think we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But there is no limitation in terms of size of teams. Is the fund open for indie developers? It depends on what you mean by indie developers. I assume pretty much everyone from Africa is an indie developer, at least in my understanding of it. If you mean singular individuals, yes, as long as they have a company registered to make games, then yes, they can apply. If you're just one person, go ahead. Or if you don't have a company but have a track record of developing games, then you can apply as well. A really good example is a lady out of South Africa, Estelle, who is a fantastic creative who's been working as a developer for many, many years. She tends to work at her own. She will be pitch perfect for this fund, even if she doesn't have a register.
Yeah, that thing about being able to verify that he's the game developers. No one just comes up, no new creative just comes up with, oh, I have a game idea, and he or she has never built a game before. That's really, really cool and important. The track record or you registered, that's something cool. Okay, so now we'll go to Kamal. Yes, Kamal, please.
So,
Sorry, before we go to Kamal, can we quickly look for all the questions in the chat? I see the questions coming in. Let me take them all quickly, one at a time. So Sunday asked, is there a specific number of people that will be selected? Like after a certain amount of people have been selected, will it end? At this point, no. If we get 100 people that receive funding, fantastic. If we get 1 or 2 with really good ideas, so be it. There is no limitation at this point. Joseph asked, is the fund a grant or are there strings attached? It's a prototype fund. And one of the things stated in the FAQ, and this is one of the key stipulations, is whatever amount is given, there is no string attached. It is yours to hopefully execute on an idea, but there will be no one chasing you and saying, hey, when is this done? It's not an agreement. There is no publisher thing tied to it. However, if you do decide, or one of the publishers decides, this is an amazing idea, we want to support you beyond a prototype, then that will be an agreement between you and the publisher. Every publisher has different agreements. And then you have that discourse with them. But for now, this is as close to a grant as you can possibly have. This is money for you to develop an idea.
Yes.
And final question in the chat. Bossaman, what level should your prototype be in to get access to this fund? Really up to you. There have been some who have applied simply with an outline of an idea. That might be enough. I know the AGDP Fund, that was all they need. Again, it varies. If you are in the early stages of conceptualizing a project, then share that. That might be all you need to convince the working group that your idea is mind-blowing enough to receive some financial backing. Don't let that stop you.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're going to quickly take just a maximum of 3 more questions. I see 2 hands up. So if you have 1 more question, you raise your hand up, please. After Kamal, James would go ahead, and then we have 1 more opportunity so that we can round up. And yeah, so I've also dropped links to the Games Industry Africa Discord server. So you can go there and continue the discussions there, ask your questions, have one-on-one, that would be wonderful. And yeah, so let's see how we can round this up, because we know this is time being spent.
And for the record, if there are more people after the 3, I am more than willing to keep on going.
Okay.
Please don't do it on my account. I know a lot of people have questions, and I would rather they get the answers they need.
Okay, then perfect. I was considering your time, so yeah, perfect. Let's do this then, guys. Come on.
All right. So you mentioned that your idea could be conceptual, but our state right now is that we work for hire for many years now. We managed to save up to make a small prototype on the side of our game, but we're really lacking the funds needed to polish this prototype. So is this might lower our ranks or priorities for the funds? Because we're already have somehow a playable prototype, but we're just lacking the polishing to turn it into an actual MVP.
I don't believe it should. I mean, the idea of a prototype is it's very rough. It's a draft. And as someone who works daily with things in early conceptual stage, you know, sometimes you have someone who just has a wireframe of what they want to develop. That is not a restriction or a hindrance in this case, at least not for me. I think your idea ultimately will shine through the rough edges. It's all about the idea. It's essentially, picture it as, you know, you've probably heard the saying, everyone has one really good book in them. This is an opportunity to get that one story within each person, or one gameplay idea within each person. You might never have known how to execute or even play around with it. You know, in some cases, some people don't know how they can get or afford license for Unreal Engine, or how to structure creating a prototype. This is that opportunity, especially with people who work exclusively with this. But rather than simply just have an idea, you have to think bigger. If you are able to fund that prototype, what would be the development roadmap be like? Who would it be for? Is it a game for everybody? Is it a game for a select target group? Is there a specific region that would do well with this? This is the core of essentially my day job when I work with the projects, what we review, and how we also market a game. And this is amazing. Like, when we're releasing a game, whilst you might have global releases, we tailor a release per region. So one release might do well in China, might do well in Europe, but there are steps, there are campaigns, there are beats tied to each thing. And I think the idea of this fund as well, and the application for this, is to have everyone applying to think holistically, rather than just, hey, I have an idea. Okay, but what happens beyond that idea?
Great. So actually, we've been researching the market for about 5 months now, and we know that our game has a fit in the market that we're the target market that we're looking to publish the game for. So here's my last question is regarding the execution plan slide in the template that you provided. Is this slide concerned only with the MVP production or the whole game production? Because we have already a roadmap for the whole game production, if that's what you want.
If you have the roadmap for your whole game, excellent. It means you're, thinking way ahead of most people in that case. But for some, it's simply, that is way further in the future. I think when you read the documentation on the website, it says the fund is designed to help you create an MVP, a minimum viable product that will be a vertical slice. The idea of the vertical slice, or a demo, as some might want to describe it, is something that is marketable and easily distributed to publishers who might want to explore it as a potential publishing deal. And that has been the challenge for a lot of developers across the continent. Hey, I've reached out to publishers with an idea, but you need to have something tangible enough for some publishers, not all, some publishers. This creates a much more even playing field when you have to make that first introduction to a publisher.
Yeah. Great. So we have to stick to the template that you provided, because we have already a pitch deck for our game. So do we just use that, or do I just copy and paste in the template that you provided?
I would say, in the interest of uniformity, and I know this is just more extra work for you, use the template, simply because we're working with different publishers in different time zones. This has been put together with everyone's input as to what they value. Some publishers value certain things more than others. I apologize. That's my 24 ring signal here. So yeah, I would suggest you use that template.
All right, great. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, so yes, James.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Oscar, for hosting this conversation. Hello, Vic. I would just like to gain some clarity on the right of first refusal to offer a publishing deal. I just want to know what really that means. I remember you mentioned that you have the publishers have some partnerships, quote unquote, where you share games to other publishers. So is it in relation to the other publishers, like you call dibs on a game that's really amazing? Or I just want to get some clarity on what the right of first refusal means. Thank you.
Of course, it's thank you for the question. It's a very fair point. The right to first refusal is if over the course of this process, you have an amazing idea and a publisher, any one of the publishers thinks, wow, this is incredible, we want to work with you to realize it, then they would obviously, having been at the start of this process, love to be the one to not only mentor you and guide you through the creation of a vertical slice, but eventually through the creation of a full game. And with that will come a discussion or an agreement dependent on the publisher. There are, at this moment, I believe 7 or 8 different publishers as part of the indie houses. It could come from any one of them. And each one has their own unique terms. But by being part of this fund, it means they would love to have the option of saying, yes, we want to sign you, or no, we don't want to sign you first, as opposed to you go through this process and then they mentor you throughout everything, and boom, out of the blue, Epic Games has snapped you up. You know what I mean? It would feel a little odd for them, and I think it's pretty standard. But there is no one beholden to the idea of a first refusal option in that FAQ at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So do we have any more questions? We're finding it out from and spent an hour together, and this was really exciting. And yep, I have to ask, any more questions?
I don't know if there's a question, but I think it's important for me to clarify that, yes, I am a huge fan of 24. I have seen every season, goodness, maybe 4 or 5 times. I don't know if that reduces me in the eyes of everyone here. But yes, I love 24.
That's good. That was from Joseph, I believe. Cool. Okay. So yeah, we have about 4 more minutes. I don't know, guys. Thanks so much for coming here. I hope your questions have been answered. I hope if there's anything that's unclear to you, you've been able to get clarification on them. And like I said, I will drop it once more that Discord server for Games Industry Africa. You can join that so that you continue the conversation there as well. So also I shared the server for Africa Committee. So there are lots of interesting stuff coming into the industry. This is not even the only one from Games Industry Africa. So feel free, please go there and start interacting. You can ask your questions. Wendy has a hand up. Yes, Wendy.
Yes, in line with communication, I also wanted to find out which Twitter account will be sharing information, because I saw underneath this article, the updates will be on LinkedIn, Twitter, and GIA. I wasn't able to get Twitter, so I wanted to know where on Twitter.
Yeah, really good question, Wendy. In truth, Twitter is probably the worst option from my end. Simply because I try to avoid social media as much as I can. But there is a GIA Twitter, newly created, horribly maintained, I think with like 2 followers. So you could go on there, but please have no expectations when it comes to regular updates because it's an absolute trash fire at this moment. But LinkedIn is probably the best. I mean, GIA is also a really good source. The Indie Houses website is also a really good source for info. But most info will likely come on GIA simply because this is the target audience, or from Oscar and Africa Comic Aid as well. Yeah, so yeah, I think you're in the right place, but it's a really good question. Discord, yes, join the Discord. There will be stuff there as well.
All right, thanks for that.
Yeah, there's another question from Bossaman. Yep. Between publisher and developer, how will intellectual property for the idea be shared? There is no one looking to take the IP here. No, you maintain the rights. Essentially, this is a grant for you to develop your idea. If you get the money, you develop your idea, nothing comes of it, you are not beholden to anybody. And that is the point of this. It's only if the conversation carries on into the possibility of a publishing deal, then that will be a discussion between the developer and the publisher. On the African continent, unfortunately, we don't have many studios who have deals with publishers. Those that do have deals with publishers are in a very weird way kind of relegated to only South Africa, with the likes of Nyamakop, Free Lives especially having a long-standing relationship and publishing deal with Devolver Digital. And you know, if you would like to have a conversation with how that arrangement goes, I would gladly share contacts with both teams to talk about publishing rights. You can talk to me about how we work with publishing and IP at Raw Fury. We don't buy up IPs unless there is a willingness from both parties to engage in that discussion. And we have had that discussion at Raw Fury. I think we currently have picked up not just the IPs, but the studios of 3 or 4 games that we've published in the past.
And yep, Mr. Man, you still have your hand up. So do you have another question, like a follow-up question or something?
There is a follow-up question in the chat. There is another question, I should say,
yeah,
from
yes.
Sounds like a Nigerian name.
It's a Nigerian name.
Yeah, that's Igbo, it sounds like. Anyway, just thinking out loud, what do you think of an accelerator program which puts African game developers on the big stage in partnership with publishers? Personally, I have gone back and forth on this. An accelerator program that focuses only on African game devs might not be exciting enough for some Western publishers, unfortunately. It would have to be an accelerator program that is bigger and grander. However, in saying that, we are starting to have publishers on the continent. You know, you're all aware of Carry First from South Africa, who, you know, burst out to the block over the last 2-3 years, you know, signed some African games. I don't know if Dawit is on this chat, but his was one of the first signed by them. They have started an accelerator program with, I believe, a hub that will be out of Cape Town. And, they have some really interesting ideas, and it's in their interests as a publisher from Africa to develop the ecosystem here, because that benefits them greatly. So I think if we're looking for accelerator programs, it needs to come from the more successful outlets here. Thank you, Oscar. That's great. Spielfabriken is a new one. There is going to be an interesting piece on Spielfabriken, which is German-based, written by wonderful Wendy, that will go up on GIA tomorrow. They will actually also be at Africa Games Week, talking about their event and co-publishing. So there are a number of really interesting initiatives all around. Digital Lab Africa is one of the longest running as well. But I think what you want to see, apart from having an accelerator, is success stories that spring from them, studios and games. And for now, we haven't really seen a lot of that. Sometimes all it takes is one, but we also don't just want those ones to either be from South Africa, which has had a lot of success. We want more from the North, from East, from Sub-Saharan. That is the idea of, hopefully just pumping money into the space so people have a lot more freedom to create the ideas they have gestated. I hope that makes sense.
I believe it does. And yeah, with that, guys, I can already see people reaching out with some private messages saying they have to excuse themselves. I think this was very, very insightful, and I really love the discussion. So let's keep it up. Let's see how we can go into the Discord servers. Let's talk, let's share ideas, let's ask more questions, and above all, let's apply. Let's give it a shot, guys. In respect to opportunities like this, for example, when IGDA Foundation came in and they said they wanted to get some Africans into the virtual exchange program, a lot of people were skeptical. But today we have at least 6 Africans who are the first people to join the virtual exchange program. I'm one of them. About 3 or 4 are from Nigeria alone. So let's give this opportunity a chance as well. I know a lot of us are not very clear on the business side of the creative industry, but then we are all working together to see how this can become much clearer. And more opportunities are coming up. A lot of things are going on. So like Dick said, check out Games Industry Africa. That's like the #1 platform to get updated news in terms of gaming in Africa. Africa Comic Kid as well is experimenting with some stuff. In terms of accelerator, we are running a pilot of a pre-accelerator that we'll be able to do. We're doing that quietly, and next year we'll see how far we can take that. So there are lots of things. We'll do our best to keep you in touch with these opportunities. And if you have questions, please feel free to reach out via Discord, via email. I believe there are lots of contacts everywhere. You can even chat people or drop comments on posts as well. Let's interact with one another so that we can be seen as a strong body. We can be seen as a structured environment, a structured industry, and we can do much more together. So thank you all. And I think with that, we can call it a day. What do you think, Vic?
I think, yeah, it's gone very quiet. So yeah, you might be right. Thank you so much for arranging this, Oscar. Amazing work. Thank you to everyone for all the questions. Yeah, feel free to hit me up directly. I will do my best to respond, but please do bear with me if I am slow in that regard.
Thank you, everyone. In respect to the pitch deck, I would have a follow-up discussion with Vic to see if there's anything we can do, and we'll also get back to you on that. But please, as you know, October ending is when this would end. So get to work, guys, and stay blessed. Bye.